What's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're not subscribed, then simply welcome to the channel. Buck Mason, right? Everyone always talks about Buck Mason when you're talking about menswear or like heritage Americana wear. And Buck Mason prides itself on quality craftsmanship, that storytelling that comes along with being an Americana brand. However, I'm going to be focusing more on the quality and craftsmanship. Is Buck Mason still something that we should be putting our money into in 2026? I'm going to go over some of the good things and the bad things about Buck Mason, and then we can arrive at a conclusion. Is it still worth it? Now, I'm a bad news first type of guy, so I'm going to quickly go over some of the bad things about Buck Mason. Or I wouldn't necessarily say bad things, but I would say like issues that I've noticed. So I have a few garments. All of these garments are, I guess, 2 years old, maybe. I'd say a year or more old. I think there's enough time for me to live with a garment, wear it, and see if it's going to perform. And so that should be a good marker of quality. A year in, 2 years in, how does it look? How is it still wearing? Now, bad news first. Let's talk about some of the items that I feel like haven't aged as well. One being my Herdsman sweater, and I'm actually really disappointed because there's a hole in it and I don't really do anything extra like strenuous in it. I haven't done anything particularly like, I guess, harsh in the sweater. Very casual use, very like movie theater, go out for dinner type of like activities. It's a good sweater. It's made of cashmere, but honestly, I would say for the price point, I would want it to be a little bit more sturdy than what it is. And it feels off the rack really like good and robust. But the fact that there's a hole in it already, honestly, I kind of question like maybe the knitting wasn't good or tight or whatever in that particular area. And I really wonder why it broke apart right there in that specific place. It is on my shoulder, but it's on the back, not in the front where I do like a lot of rotation like this. I'm really just kind of dumbfounded. I'm not an expert on knitwear. Maybe that's kind of par for the course. I think what I'm paying for here is the convenience of not having to shop for like a vintage version of the sweater. But the sweater is based off of a vintage sweater from like back in the day, like 40s, 50s maybe. And a Herdsman sweater is usually like a pretty loose knit sweater. So it's got holes in it. Not like true holes, but I guess like gaps in the knit. And that allows a lot of breathability, but it does still keep you warm. It's a great like under a coat layer, or if you wear it by itself, maybe a good t-shirt or tank top underneath it will still keep you relatively toasty in the winter time if it's early winter or like late fall. The fibers that it's made of is cashmere, 5% cashmere, and then the rest of it is actually merino wool. So it's not necessarily a cheap, mix of materials. Buck Mason does love the mixed materials because they get like a little bit of the properties, I guess, from both materials when they do that. But both cashmere and merino wool tend to be soft. I guess cashmere is a bit softer, and it's honestly kind of a flex to see like cashmere on the tag. But it's only 5% cashmere. I think I'm paying a lot of extra money for that cashmere. I think a comfortable price would be around $230 for this instead of like $300. So for that reason, I would say that maybe it wasn't exactly worth my money because it is like starting to experience like holes already. I think it's less than 3 years, maybe a year and some months old, and I'm already getting like a hole in it. So is this particular item, I guess, worth your money? Maybe, but for the sake of honesty, I feel like maybe I could have invested in a better built sweater, maybe with maybe less tension in that area. I'm not really a knitwear expert, so I can't really say if you can reinforce like knitwear like that. All right, next up is the hero product of Buck Mason. The hero product of Buck Mason is the t-shirt. Buck Mason is supposed to be known for the t-shirts. Now, I'm here in my closet, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull out a couple of t-shirts that are, I think, maybe a year apart from each other. All right, I've got the Field Spec t-shirt and also the Supima black t-shirt. Now, obviously the Supima one is a lot less robust. It's a lot thinner, and so I can't really give it like a one-to-one comparison to the Field Spec. The Field Spec is absolutely a beast. It's a monster. It's 310 GSM. I did a whole video on it. And so I definitely don't expect most t-shirts to perform like this one in the sense of like durability. But I will say that out of the two, I think the Field Spec, even though it's the more expensive, more robust, more durable one, I feel like I've worn it a little bit more, and I do expect it to stay sort of together. But also, the color hasn't really gone out. I don't know if they've actually even dyed it at all. Maybe this is all the color of like natural fibers, but I haven't seen any color loss, whereas the black one, although I expect color loss, I feel like I have a little more color loss than I really want. And so even though I washed it a similar amount of times as this one, and I do feel like this one has aged a bit more. Again, it is thinner, but I really can't say that I don't expect that. Now, color loss aside, the t-shirt is still standing up very well. It's still put together and the construction is not bad. It's a standard fitting t-shirt, nothing crazy, whereas the field spec kind of feels like a standard t-shirt, but also kind of fits a bit more tight, I guess, a bit more fitted. The thinner of the two, being the Pima one, is a bit more loose and forgiving. I probably wear it more frequently, as in back to back, whereas the field spec, I probably worn it more often in totality, but maybe not as frequently. I only feel really comfortable wearing the field spec one when it's like kind of colder outside, but on occasion I will wear it in the warmer weather as like a standalone t-shirt. Both decent t-shirts. I feel like as a hero product, I would expect them to be pretty decent. And so I would say that these t-shirts are worth your money. Do expect to baby or, maybe treat the thinner of the two a little bit more delicately, you know what I mean? Now I got another shirt over here, the Lizard Lounge shirt that you guys may remember from another video that I did specifically for this exact shirt. Now this is definitely like my, I guess, step into like more mature dressing. I feel like although I love like Rick Owens and undercover and avant-garde clothing, I've definitely been trying to grow up my wardrobe and like go towards things that are more like for my body type. And I am finding myself getting back into like avant-garde and streetwear stuff, but I kind of feel like it all has to fit with my more mature, like casual fits, I guess. This is one of those pieces that I feel like is casual, doesn't really go with avant-garde or streetwear fits, but if I do any like more minimalistic looks or more like Japanese minimalism or whatever like that, it does kind of like go. And I can also wear with like an Americana sort of fit. So the Buck Mason Lizard Lounge shirt is a linen and lyocell mix. So lyocell is a synthetic or maybe a semi-synthetic. Semi-synthetic, if you don't know, that means that it has been, derived from a natural material technically, but maybe it's been chemically altered or changed. Yeah, with that being said though, it's a good shirt. I would say that it's a pretty decent shirt overall. But there's something I noticed, like, I don't know if this is a happy accident or if it's actually by design. And a lot of things honestly kind of end up being a happy accident, even though it's passed off as actual design. But then there are the exceptions that, are actually designed to function or age patina a certain type of way. Like the guy who made Visvum, he said that his clothes are kind of like future vintage. Like they're done, right? But they're only like really halfway finished through their process of, I guess, becoming the ultimate version of themselves. You have to wear and wash and repeat and kind of beat the clothes up, and then they'll become the version of, I guess, perfection that he was striving for. That type of thing, you can really see it shine through when it's done really well. And then sometimes by the nature of what you're actually creating, it kind of just happens, I guess. But I do like the way that this particular shirt is aging. The camera doesn't really do it justice, but you kind of can see the difference in color. If you compare it to the brand new version, the brand new state of the shirt from when I first wore it and I first did like a review on it to now, you can definitely see the patina. Since it's made of only about 25% linen and the rest is obviously the lyocell, you do kind of get like a little bit of a worry, I guess. Like, am I buying a plastic or synthetic shirt? Is it worth the price? Well, I'll say that in this particular case, I think the purpose of using 25% linen may be because linen kind of fights an uphill battle against wrinkles, and people don't like that about linen. The lyocell isn't rayon necessarily, and it isn't necessarily viscose, but it behaves more so like those materials because it does kind of like drape and it does kind of like de-wrinkle itself. Whereas linen, once you wrinkle it, it kind of stays wrinkled until you go out and like iron it. So sometimes people kind of stray away from 100% linen. They also could have done like a cotton linen mixture. I have a pair of pants from La Mer that's a cotton linen mixture, and they look really nice. Honestly, I wear the two together sometimes. But I feel like one of the properties of like a rayon or a lyocell or even a tencel is that it does have a certain sort of a weight to it. And I think with a shirt in particular, you kind of want it to like drape rather than hang. and I think it does need to have a certain sort of a weight. Cotton can sort of appear stiff, and it kind of keeps its structure, and so it's great for keeping structure, but I don't think they wanted all that much structure in this particular shirt. I think they wanted it to kind of form to the body and sort of like billow in the wind and all that cool stuff. It's a decent shirt, and they do include good mother of pearl buttons. It is authentic. A quick tip to tell if your mother of pearl is authentic: you can touch it to your nose and it should be cold to the touch. It has a nice little pocket on it, but honestly, other than that, it's a pretty simple shirt. I think the best part about it is pretty much just the way it's kind of cut. If I ever gain like a little bit of weight, I can tell because the shirt fits differently. And then when I lose the weight, it fits like a lot better. I wish that it was like a little bit wider on my chest, I'm not gonna lie. Because I feel like the next size up looked a little too big, whereas this kind of fit me perfectly everywhere but the chest. All that being said, this shirt, I still wear it a ton. I wear it open, I wear it closed. Other than some small annoying details like this one button on the sleeve, I feel like they should have had two, because when it closes, it leaves like a sort of a gap or something. I don't know if you could tell how that would be, right? And I feel like, I don't know, I just want it to be like more closed up. It just kind of looks open, and then when I like roll it up, because I kind of feel like there's like a lot of space, and it doesn't really stay on my arms unless I roll it all the way up. I have to like really commit to the roll. It's not a super cheap price point at like $168, $170, but it's not super expensive either, honestly. It's not like a $400 shirt, so you kind of can't like really expect all the bells and whistles. Now let's talk about some of the, I guess, nicer aspects, or the good parts. For what you're paying, I feel like you get a pretty decent garment most of the time. I don't think that anything from Buck Mason is a bad quality item, but I have been slightly disappointed with some of their offerings. I would say that they should probably lower their price points or up their quality, but that's kind of the story of like most fashion brands nowadays. But I wouldn't describe Buck Mason as a bad quality brand. I think for what you're getting, I think it's decent, it's okay. Even at the mid-tier levels like ALD and stuff like that, those brands do kind of get a little bit crazy with their prices, albeit ALD is more expensive than Buck Mason, sometimes by a country mile. But you can get some truly American-inspired clothing from an American brand, although it's not always made in America. It is close to the inspiration source because it is a California brand, it's an American brand. So we're referencing ourselves here. Even if we didn't create the garment, maybe we created a certain style of that garment. So even though the price points could be lower, I think that we're getting a basically decent selection of clothing, like as far as variety. And we also do get a pretty decent garment more often than not. It's very true to the aesthetic that they set out to kind of give you. But at the same time, I feel like overall, my opinion is that it's sometimes worth the money. Does that make sense? I usually try and be a bit more black and white and objective, but I think that there's like certain aspects of Buck Mason that are really great. Then there are other aspects that are maybe subpar, like the colors do seem to be like in between colors, and sometimes that's hard to match with anything other than Buck Mason. But when you find those neutrals, those really nice neutral colors that Buck Mason does do, and some of their more, affordable options. So if you want something that does feel a little bit more elevated, it is a good idea to go maybe to Buck Mason or some brand like that and get that more elevated option of something that you could describe as a basic. But overall, I would say that if you can find a vintage inspiration, maybe go with that. Although vintage is getting more expensive nowadays, sometimes you end up spending the same price for almost the same thing. And the Buck Mason one might be a little bit more modern as far as it fits. I'm feeling pretty mid on this one, guys. I think I'm gonna leave it up in the air. If I say in totality, yes, don't hold it against me. I will say, yeah, Buck Mason is still a good brand, but kind of take that with a grain of salt, and maybe specific items or specific categories are better than others. I hope that helps you guys. Thank you guys for watching the video. Again, it's been a pleasure. Hit that subscribe button. Have a great one.